Tajon Buchanan with options. Lai wants it. Buchanan himself! Tajon Buchanan! Silences the crowd in Houston! Buchanan does it himself!
This is O Canada, O Baby, presented by CIBC. Wheeler, Wilson, Geyser, and Conway with you. Some good news for the Canadian men's national team as Tajon Buchanan has recovered from a broken leg, which was a big storyline across Copa America and has derailed the start of his club season at Inter. He's been back on the bench over the course of the last week, coming at a decent time with the Canadian men's national team ready to get back together ahead of two quarterfinal CONCACAF Nations League ties against Suriname. Buchanan's been a curious case. I mean, during that World Cup run, you just couldn't take him out of the team. He was that good for Canada. But under Jesse Marsch, he started the first 3 games before being dropped against both Chile and Peru before inevitably breaking his leg. So I wonder what to expect out of Tajon Buchanan for Canada under Jesse Marsch. Does a different manager mean that he's still going to be an integral part of the setup?
Yeah, without a doubt, he'll still be an integral part, but I think to load him up is a smart way, and the team's been doing great with all the different wingers putting great effort and following the game plan and playing the way that Jesse wants. I think you bring him in and you integrate him to the group, introduce him and bring him up slowly and make sure he's a part of the team.
You know, as a coach, the best thing to have is competition. And this adds another guy to drive the competition for that winger spot. And a guy of his quality coming in, pushing the other groups, going to push on whoever's on. Maybe he plays on, you know, Schaffelberg's side, and Schaffelberg's been good. So, you know, maybe it drives that all forward. And then, you know, now the coach has a tough decision to make.
Yeah, I think with Tajon, when Jesse Marsch was appointed manager, came at a time where Tajon, for me, what was lacking was just that confidence to go on, take on players, to have that final ball. And you see with attacking players as well, they have those moments, those dips, right, where you don't always feel like you're the guy that can go and change things. But I think with the way that he plays and what he has in the locker, which is pace, which is the way that he's 1v1 on both ends, he's able to just dominate. He can play a high press system that suits Jesse Marsch in that style. Like he's gonna take off. I agree with you though. It just takes some time to get his feet under him and really get back to
the other thing is too, Jordan.
Know.
If you think about it, Tajon went through a transition of playing right back before he left, then right wing back. I think with Jesse's system, he's playing his best at right wing. That's his best position. Up tempo, press, get the ball, go. I think he's a better winger than a wing back, but there's nothing wrong with being.
Do you agree, John?
Position.
You know, the only thing I would say is does Jesse want to use him where he can come inside off the left-hand side and be aggressive that way? That's the only thing I think about. You know, you got Schaffelberg, who's just going to be a streaker on the left-hand side. Can you flip that and put a guy who can come inside and be a little bit more dangerous on the inside? I mean, I thought Ahmed's been decent on the right-hand side, but I agree. Like, there's going to be battles, and that's what you want.
The only reason why I'm tempering my expectations, at least over the short term, and you're right, just in terms of easing him back into things. He plays for Inter Milan, like a big club, and there's real competition for places. Is he going to get regular football? That's been the biggest problem for Tajon Buchanan for me over the last year and change. He's been in and out of teams. He hasn't been consistently playing week in, week out. And to be your best of the national team, I think you just need to play. I have no problem with his quality or the pedigree. Let's talk about some of those options in wide areas. Unfortunately, Liam Miller, devastating, went out through injury with Hull City. I just saw him as a player growing into his role with the national team. Schaffelberg and Ahmed in the mix. Theo Corbin, who hasn't been in a Canada side for quite some time. Junior Hoylett still playing at a high level in Scotland. Jaden Nelson. Could he play Alphonso Davies in a more advanced role? That's something I'm still curious about. Richie Lorea obviously has played on the right-hand side a little bit further up when need be. And what the dream scenario would be Luca Koleosho somehow, some way, declaring that he'll play for Canada. I mean, that's the jackpot. That's the dream scenario there. But what do you make of the options?
Yeah, I mean, there's a huge loss for Miller not to be in it because thought he was at the right club. He was coming into camp fit. He was a great option coming off the bench when he just played Panama a few weeks ago. I think that Tajon will be the guy that's his spot. I know Schaffelberg, he's been the one that's almost been forgotten before, even with TFC. And then Jesse Marsh has said, put a little battery in his
Shout
back.
out to Halifax.
And just said,
Yeah,
there
yeah,
it is. I was waiting for it.
Yes.
Put a battery in his back, and now he has belief. But I think with Ahmed, the way that he's playing, I think Tajon adds something different. But I like that there's those three that they play different type of football, but they still suit Jesse Marsh and his style.
Yeah, it's really. But listen, I mean, isn't this about the 2026 World Cup?
Yeah.
And if we're building to that, the way Jesse wants to play is maximum energy. So when you got a game every 3 days, this is great. It's starting to develop now where you could say, hey, pedal to metal, and we got fresh legs for the next game. Then I play the best team in the third game. So I think that's what this is really about. It's not about the game next week or everything. Of course, you want to win those, but build continuity and true identity when you lead to the World Cup.
Is there a preferred option for you? I know Ahmed, Schaffelberg were starting last window.
Come on, John.
No, there isn't a preferred for me. And I think, quite frankly, you could play a mixture between the first game and the second game. Why not? I mean, we should go out and take care of Suriname. On paper, everything that we've done, how good we are, we should go out and dominate.
Yeah.
And again, you have the luxury with guys that are playing at big clubs, guys that are doing the job for you in previous camps, to have a decision where, okay, this game, go run your race. Next game, we're going to let another guy who hasn't been in and give him a chance and see what he can do.
I will say this, though, Patrice, I get it, 2026, it's Operation 2026. I think winning a trophy, either the Nations League or the Gold Cup, to build more reference points, to have that in your back pocket, to give that a little bit of extra confidence, continuity, I think it's huge. These two tournaments that are upcoming over the next year, massive for this group. Obviously, you know, the time under Jesse Marsh, I think has been overwhelmingly positive from an internal and external perspective. What have you made of these early days of the Jesse Marsh era with the Canadian men?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the team has its true identity. You could clearly see he's saying, okay, the team that we play has their strength. Our strength is our athleticism and work and press. And the team's completely bought in. And he has some really, really good tools, and he's launched some major careers, bringing Cornelius back in, adding Bombito, Kone growing, and sticking with Kyle Larin when he had his up and downs has really paid off. So, yeah.
Yeah, the biggest story, I mean, yes, the way that they play. If Canada didn't beat Panama, there might have been a little bit of a different tone heading into the Nations League, the fact that they did pull it off. But the way that Moise Bombito's playing and the way that Jonathan David are playing, you look for those areas of stability where you know you have stars in those positions. Davies is playing at an extremely high level at Bayern right now as well. Like, you have players that you can turn to right out of the gate here in the Nations League, say, let's push this. Let's continue to go in the right direction.
So that's international football, right? Like you play with the players, obviously for your country, but that are in form, that are striking.
Yeah.
With players like that, Wheels, I mean, Canada definitely has a shot.
And the players seem engaged, John. Like they seem like they also fit this style of play to a T. I wasn't sure how I was going to look at first, but it's coming together, and I think it's playing to the strength of some of these players as well.
I was skeptical in how quickly he could get the buy-in.
Right, yes.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest part. Yeah,
like how
for
quickly
sure.
he can get these guys to buy in, and they bought in near immediately. And it's been great. I mean, he's been able to progress the team so much farther than I think he expected because of that. And I think you're going to see some more jumps here as we get to the summertime in the Gold Cup.
Yeah.
And I'll say this, the first game they had was really bumpy when they were pressing high and going. I think they lost 3-0, but didn't change a thing, stuck with it. This is who we are. When it's not necessarily about the results, it's about the process.
Yeah, it's 4-0, but then they tweak things. Yeah.
All in the second half.
Definitely tweak
All in the
things,
second half.
For sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, look, we're just a week out from the international break. We can change out. So, and we're back in it. Canada-Suriname. Both matches right here on One Soccer. The Friday night away, and then the Tuesday, November 19th, at home at BMO Field. Look, the pitch needs some work. That game is going to be interesting on the second. So both games right here on One Soccer.